Well, it appears that we should have been at PowerCon instead of Star Trek Las Vegas, huh?
Right? Oh.
I would have loved to have
should
been
have been anywhere else. We should have been at a used car dealership opening or something. Like that's kind of lucky we had.
But anyway, right off the bat, we got some super chats. $2 from Mr. Wolverine 007 says, "I have the power," which will go perfectly into our chat with Andre, which is why he's here. We've got another $5 super chat from Mark C, which will lead right into our conversation. Being a Tila story doesn't necessarily mean woke. The answer depends on who is primary He-Man writer, Kevin Smith or SJW Mark Bernardine, however you say his name. I know who he is. He's on all his podcasts and stuff. Thank you so much for the super chats. We'll get into that part of the conversation, I'm sure. So, Andre, do you want to kick this conversation off since you just had an editorial drop on the main channel?
Yeah, certainly. Well, basically, there's a new He-Man revival series coming that doesn't have He-Man in the name. It's just called Masters of the Universe Revelation. And I didn't put this in editorial, but what kind of a title is that? Revelation. I see why they do it. It's obviously the revelation of the secrets of Grayskull. That's what the title is referring to. But like, what a low budget title. You have like Hellraiser Revelation and Prophecy Revelation. And how many revelations do we have out there for all kinds of shitty sequels? It's not a great title in that way, I think. But still, everything else, I think, is something to be excited about. It's going to be a continuation of Filmation, a very loose one, because they say it's going to continue right where it dropped off. Well, where it dropped off was actually in the She-Ra series with the unicorn being born. So that's a pretty vague thing. It's a reboot that just like uses the original series as a vague starting point, and then it gets into the stories that were alluded to, storylines that were begun but never concluded, and possibly the biggest of the unconcluded storylines is just the one they're telling right here, the one about Tila and her basically being predetermined to be the sorceress of Grayskull. So I can absolutely see why they're doing this. I can, of course, see why people are worried that, oh, this is going woke and everything, and is putting a female-centric spin on it. And if we're really unlucky, they may do that. But really, there is precedence for this in the original series. There was a build-up there that was never resolved, and that's what they're doing here. And I'm kind of excited about that. That's my thoughts, at least. But I'm curious, what do you guys think about that?
So there was a buildup that was never resolved. So
yes.
J.J. Abrams was involved in the series?
Well, I'm sure his spiritual successor was, among many others. The series had numerous writers, but the problem was that continuity wasn't that big a thing back then in TV. So it's like it was.
I think it needs to be said, though, that people like Brad Bird and Paul Dini and stuff like that worked on the original
JMS.
series.
JMS from Babylon 5. Yeah.
The big thing about the thing is, like all the also, I think DC Fontana wrote some episodes of He-Man or something like that.
I think she did as well. Also,
I think you're right.
With the Paul Dini, all the cool stuff that he brought into Batman the animated series, especially the chemistry between Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn and those other characters, that was a further evolution of the chemistry between the characters in He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. There were so many talents, Straczynski among them, who went on to do Babylon 5, that started out on He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And they were the ones that penned some of these storylines, like the one with Tila and the Sorceress of Grayskull.
Well, the big thing to remember is that back then, syndicated television in the U.S., everything, a lot of times networks, television stations would show everything out of order. So they really couldn't do any kind of serialized storyline, even though Robotech did. And even that, sometimes stuff was jumbled out of order. Yeah. But at the same time, I do remember that one episode where they said that Tila was actually the sorcerer. The sorceress was her name. Just
Sorceress. The sorceress of
Grayskull.
Grayskull.
Yeah, where they actually said that she was the sorceress of Grayskull's daughter, and it will be passed on to you, my daughter. And what the? Oh shit! My television came back to life.
Well,
Right,
Becca
guys?
had something to say too. It sounded like there quick.
Do it live.
I forgot what it was. Sorry.
Oh, well, all right. Well, we do have a super chat here, and that'll get us into another portion of the conversation. Chief Cook sends us $4.99. I bet they will make She-Ra more powerful than He-Man if SJW will make it happen.
Well, we know there's not going to be a crossover, according to what Noelle Stevenson said about 6 or 7 months ago, that she has no plans of having any sort of crossover anytime soon. Now, that was the thing I was going to ask you about, Tom. Didn't you just say or discover something where the rights were going for He-Man were all going to Mattel, and while Netflix and DreamWorks have all the She-Ra stuff, so they're kind of like splitting off the universe?
Well, that's kind of I think I found something about that a while ago. I can't remember where it was from exactly to verify that right at the moment. But yeah, basically, as Andre pointed out in his editorial, never the two shall meet. And that is because DreamWorks has a license right now for She-Ra, and Masters of the Universe is on its own with Mattel. And that's why you'll never see the two crossover right now. Not because what's her face is just not thinking about it. It's more so she can't.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Exactly. That's like she can say that. Oh, there's no plans about that. That's a way of trying to remain in control instead of admitting we can't. It's not on the cards. He-Man can never appear because we don't have the rights. It just sounds so much better to say that now we don't have any plans to that direction. But the truth is they can't, and they never could.
Yeah, that's what I was understanding.
And she gave a non-answer, pretty much.
Yeah. So at least there's that. Now I'm kind of on the fence about this, because on the one hand, I like that. I know a lot of people in my comments when I did my videos about this already, people are like, "Oh no, Kevin Smith's a shill. Kevin Smith is SJW. He's going to ruin it." I still have faith in him, and I think he's going to give a lot of the fans what they want. But then I saw, oh yeah, it's all about Teela. That could really, really fall into the anti-He-Man category. I have no problem with having a great female-centered storyline that is true to the universe, that is, a sequel and will tie up loose ends. That would be amazing. Just don't bash the male characters while you're doing it. Don't make He-Man a side character in his own universe. Don't make him, at least not so much of one. Don't take away his balls, basically, is what I always like to say about all these heroes, because that seems to be the thing that they keep doing. Everything from Thor to Han Solo to all that, they just take away everything that makes the characters cool. So
there could be something to worry about, because the part of the story is the finding of the sword. Mm-hmm. Now, this could mean that He-Man stuck his Adam through a lot of the story.
Okay.
But, as Andre pointed out in his editorial, and in the beginning of this, I believe too, Teela's story has not been finished yet. There was a lot set up in the original series, and Neil asked earlier if he should watch the original series. There's probably a select few episodes you should watch. You don't necessarily have to watch all 100 of them, but yeah.
There's no need for that. It's quite sufficient if you watch like 5 episodes, 10.
5 or 10, yeah.
Watch 5 or 10 episodes.
And actually, I think most of those are on the fan favorite CD or DVD set that come out a while back. Most of them are on there, I think, if I remember right.
I don't know what's on it. I'd be very happy to compare.
The one with, I believe the one that ties directly with this, the Teela one, is on there. I'm pretty sure the one where He-Man, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a really good episode. I think Paul Dini wrote it, where I think he decides that he's not going to be He-Man anymore or something like that or something. There's a couple other great episodes on there too that kind of cover a lot of the basics of what you should probably. I'm going to double check on that, but if so, I'll bring it up in another podcast later in the week and say, yeah, check that out. So, but yeah, I'm sure there's a good list of it out there somewheres.
Yeah, and if not, I'd be very happy to compile a list of the.
That's a good idea for a video.
Yeah, I might do that. Like the 10 episode or the 5 episodes that you must see and 5 more you should see, but no more than 10. That's really all you need to get everything, because the original series, honestly, I think it's pretty amazing, and it holds up Some of the episodes hold up really well.
Oh yeah.
Most of them don't. But the ones that do, they are still pretty decent.
Oh yeah, some still hold up really well, and then some of them, like you said, they're like basically what they are, a 30-minute commercial for a toy.
Yeah, pretty much.
It can't be any worse than going back and watching G.I. Joe. G.I. Joe, I mean,
I'm not even that big of a G.I. Joe fan, but I think G.I. Joe had a little bit better production value for the animation. But
you had cold weather trooper running around in the middle of the jungle in his winter gear. I mean,
well, that's because you'd have to change the model, Rob.
Yeah, I know. He-Man got off easy when you think about it.
How many Asian sweatshops do you think can animate in real time like that when you change the model mid-stroke? It just don't work, you know.
And that is one thing that He-Man and the Masters of the Universe deserves credit for. That Filmation, the studio, insisted on doing everything in the States, keeping jobs stateside.
Yeah, for all the shortcuts Filmation always made in their animation, they always did the best they could for the quality and keeping it, like you said, in the U.S. And that's one thing. And it's sad that there's not a lot of that, you know, that not a lot of other companies that did that. And I think that's why He-Man to me kind of stood out above the rest. To me, when I was a kid, that was one thing I really remember gravitating towards, other than like Star Wars and Superman, was He-Man. Like my earliest memory is sitting, and I think I've said this on one of our podcasts before, whereas, you know, my dad saying, sit down and watch this. And I'm like, why would he want to make me watch I Love Lucy? I don't want to watch I Love Lucy. Well, it was the last 2-3 minutes of I Love Lucy. And as soon as I Love Lucy was over, it all of a sudden came He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. And I was like, for the next 30 minutes, my whole fucking world changed. You know, it was like, because it was like the toy I'd been playing with all this time is on TV and it's moving and talking and there's Skeletor. And, you know, it was like, holy shit, you know, it was really crazy. For a little kid like that, my mind was blown. So $5 from super chat from Mark C. Complete series He-Man and She-Ra box sets are coming October 1st. That is correct. They're getting re-released again. I do have the original He-Man run of shows outside of the middle series. They only did select episodes for some reason in the box that I have, but otherwise it has the full thing of He-Man. It has the full thing of the 2001 or 2, whenever that came out. Or was it later than
2002.
Yeah, 2002 series. Yeah,
that, by the way, is an amazing series.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the style is going to be very similar to that, more so than the original. I think it's going to kind of be a cross between that and the paintings that we've seen in.
I think it's going to look a little more like the Netflix Castlevania because that's who's doing it. Is
to a point, yeah.
Studio, so it's going to look a little more anime, I think. But,
which is what the 2002 series basically is.
Yeah,
exactly. So I also think it's going to look more like the 2002 series, but probably even more polished because they're going for the box art look by Obrero. So I'm really excited about the visuals there. Looking forward to that.
And just in case anybody's wondering what we're talking about here, I'll bring it up real quick here, just so they know. Because I don't know, I doubt you've ever seen this series, Mecca. I'm sure.
No.
Or even aware of it, maybe.
I've heard of it because I've watched, like, I think they mentioned it in the Toys That Made Us or the He-Man.
Yeah, I think
I love the 80s He-Man one or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they did. But it's a really good series, and it sucks because it ended. I don't know if it ended on a cliffhanger, but I think they had plans to do more, and it never finished.
Yeah. No, it didn't end on a cliffhanger. Luckily, it was like a reasonably satisfying end, but they had built up so much more. They had built up Hordak. They had alluded to She-Ra. That's where they were going in season 3, which never happened. But since it was cancelled, thank God it was cancelled, not on a cliffhanger, but on a reasonably satisfying ending point. But one that made you wish for more, because it's one of the better reboots I've ever seen. So it's such a shame that the audience didn't bite.
Oh, yeah, I was there. I watched it. I taped it. And then I remember getting the DVD set, but it's been years since I've watched it. And then I got this. Of course, it came again in my box set. But yeah, I remember it being really really well done. So hopefully this will follow a lot of that series, and we can hope for the best. I mean, I don't know how much of a He-Man fan Kevin Smith is. I don't know if we've really talked about this much yet. I mean, I gotta imagine he was kind of aged out of He-Man by the time.
Yeah, I think he's a little older for it, but
I was gonna say,
well, that's kind of my thought, was that he would at
he's
least
more
know from a
closer to
fan's perspective that he would like do right for the fans, because he is a fan of so many things,
'cause
right?
he's closer to Rob's age. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah,
Kevin Smith kind of likes everything, though. That's
true. That's true.
He may be into the comics. We may not know. He may have gotten into the comics later on. That's very possible.
Mhm.
If he's into the comics, that's perfectly fine. Because
And that's
they
who's
do
producing
such
the show.
a
Is that
good-
one?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Andre, and get into that if you want.
It's the writer of, or one of the writers of the DC reboot of the He-Man comics, and that was a really, really good reboot. So hopefully he will be keeping Kevin Smith in check a little bit, and if he does, then I think we're in good hands, because I don't know how big a fan Kevin Smith is of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe either. He's a little bit too old to have been all that impacted by it, but perhaps he was. We don't know. But I think that he has the pedigree that he might do it justice, especially with the help from Mattel. Because what I think is the most significant thing about this is that this is being made at all. And it's being made by Mattel under their new studio after they have an outspoken strategy of trying to capitalize more on their brands and bringing them into the forefront. And this is an effort to that end, which just goes to show that they're serious. And they're quite serious about their brand management. Part of the reason why we haven't gotten a He-Man movie so far, after like 15 years of trying, is because the various filmmakers that have been attached, they haven't really understood the brand, and they try to do it in other directions. And then Mattel have said, no, can't do that. And that has been cause for some of the delay, and rightfully so, I might add.
Well, so Rob, you were what, about 13 when the toys came out? 14, somewhere in there?
When did they?
Roughly? 83, 82?
Yeah,
Yeah, 80. And it was like 12, 13. Yeah. Yeah.
So you would have been, what was your observation at the time? Obviously, you probably weren't really into the toys. You would have been a little too old, but I mean, you would have seen the phenomenon take over, at the time. What was your observation then?
Okay, it was like, okay, cool. People are in there. Everybody's into that. I must. I was avidly reading Marvel comics by then.
And it fit right into that, and Conan, and of course there's some connection to Conan. I don't know if Andre wants to get into that at all before he goes, but
there absolutely is a strong connection between He-Man and Conan. The concept for that would evolve into He-Man that predated the licensing agreement between Conan Properties and Mattel. So there was a pre-existing concept. However, how He-Man further evolved, there's very little coincidence there. That there was a strong influence from Conan. But the details of that we're going to get into in a later video.
All right. Well, now as far as characterizations of the characters, are we hoping they're going to be closer to the Filmation ones, Andre, or do you hope they're going to be more like the 2002, or do you think they're even going to, oops, that's not the one I wanted to share again. Do you think they're even going to be nearly the same at all, or what do you think they're going to go with here as far as like the characterizations?
I would think that it's going to be both, because the beauty with the 2002 version was that already was the perfect, more serialized version, a slightly more adult version of the Filmation series. So I don't see how you can do a modern reboot or a revival of the Filmation series without it inadvertently becoming more like the 2002 series.
Well, I hope they at least get somebody who can do Skeletor's voice close enough. We need that much.
There was almost a little bit of Mickey Mouse in that laughter.
Yeah, it got there a little bit, but it helps if you have the echo. The echo always helps. If you don't have the echo, it just doesn't sound right.
Yeah.
I don't understand how nobody thought of. Well, obviously it didn't. It didn't. But did anybody really say, you know what? Talking skull on top of a bodybuilder's, a professional wrestler's body. You don't think that's gonna freak people out? You don't think that's gonna freak kids out?
I'm blue, and blue goes with everything.
True, yeah.
They already had market research saying that this was something that looked cool, and the kids loved it.
Well, they kind of stole it from Conan. That was one thing they really stole from Conan.
That absolutely stole from Conan. Like, there's no question about that. That's a pure ripoff
Thulsa
of
Doom,
Thulsa Doom. Yeah. He-Man, you can argue, but Skeletor, that's pure Thulsa Doom. That's 100% ripoff.
Well, they were sure to go and make He-Man 25% more different than Conan. Give him blonde hair instead of dark hair, lighter skin than darker skin, and make him a bit more Anglo than
But the funny thing is that in his original mini-comic incarnation, He-Man 2 he wasn't Prince Adam. He was a barbarian.
Yes.
Who traveled away from his tribe to discover civilization, much like Conan.
Yes, it was very much like Conan. And a lot of what we can, and that's probably why they're saying the Filmation series, and Neil said it again, and I mentioned it to him. I said, if you've seen the 2002 series, you probably don't have to see the Filmation series, because they cover a lot of that really well in that series. I think they got to alluding that she's the whole thing with Teela, didn't they? In that, it's been a while since I watched it.
I don't. Yes, they did.
I was going to say, I thought so.
They even alluded to who her father is.
Oh, okay, all right. Yeah, I remember. It's been like good 10, 15 years since I watched that series. I need to sit down and watch it. So I'm sure a lot of that's covered in there too. So again, that's really, I think, where this series is going. I hope we get some He-Man in it. I don't think he's going to be the focal point per se, but if it's supposed to be about the final battle between him and Skeletor, that's really going to be played up too, I'm sure. So,
Scravage sent us a super chat and a question to go with it about the characters. Let's see, that is a $4.99 super chat saying, does anyone know if Mattel has the rights to use the original Filmation characters? If you mean the original characters that were created from or for the Filmation cartoon, I think that they have the rights now. I think that there was some kind of wrangling, something like that Mattel had a part ownership of the series, and therefore they had a claim.
Well, not so just that, Filmation doesn't even exist anymore, do they?
Exactly.
Really?
So that when they closed their doors, one of two things would happen: either all of their characters would be locked up in a vault, so no one could ever use them again, or they would go where there still was a part ownership, and that part ownership was with Mattel. So, for instance, a similar thing would be Marshall Bravestar.
Or Bebop and Rocksteady and Krang, too, is another one that were created for the series, but then later on they got the rights from...
Exactly, yeah.
Sorry.
Same thing here. So basically all the rights for the original characters created for Filmation, would be with Mattel now. So they can use anything that was in the Filmation series.
The only limitations would be I don't expect anybody from She-Ra to show up, and I think that might now I haven't watched the new series. Is the Horde even part of the new series, Mecca? Do you remember it all?
I think so.
So if the Horde's in the new series, my guess is we probably won't see it unless there's some kind of cross-pollination there to where they're able to use the characters just because.
No.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think Hordak is in there, so or whatever.
Yeah, he's
I only watched
the Horde.
Yeah, I only watched the first 2 episodes. That was that awful. So
I think that the entire Horde and Hordak with it is locked up with She-Ra, and they can't use that unless they separately license it. Because here's the thing to keep in mind, though, that these are two different licenses. She-Ra is one license, and He-Man is another license. However, Mattel is the ultimate owner of both. If they want to grant the use of both He-Man and She-Ra and the Horde and Hordak and everything for one licensee, whether it be movie, animation, something like that, they can. So it's much less frigid than you have with certain other things. Because basically the only reason they decided to split them up is to be able to monetize them more by sending them to different licensees. But there's no other real reason why they have to be split up into different licenses. So if Mattel decides that, okay, in the movies, Sony can have everything and mix everything together, they can do that.
Right, and then I was also saying it could be something like with the Avengers, to where they could use certain Avengers in X-Men, and they could use certain Avengers in at the same time. You know, for instance, the twins. You know, because they're cross-pollinated characters, maybe that's where the Horde falls in. I was thinking possibly.
So they're saying Hordak is a clone. Sleeping Peanut says Hordak is a clone of Horde Prime, according to the new series.
Okay, so it's hard to say on that part. We'll have to wait and see. We did get a $5 super chat from Captain Hare. He demands a Skeletor versus Old Man Picard rap battle. We'll have to see what I can come up with at some point. Yeah. Maybe we'll save that for a Friday show, like we did the Batman animated thing.
And Scravage also sent us another $1.99
yes.
super chat saying, "Thanks, Andre and Tom, for answering his question. Well, it was our pleasure."
Yeah, I couldn't find the original one, or I put it up here. It only lets me have so many. After a while, it disappears. So I think I lost it. So anyway, yes, we did catch that, though. Sorry about missing that at first. I don't think I missed any more super chats. So was there anything else, Andre, you had to add to this conversation before we let you get to bed because you have to work in a few hours? Or?
Yeah, that's true. No, I just want to say I'm really, really hopeful. I am really excited about this project, and I just hope that Kevin Smith is going to do it justice. I'm not overtly worried that it's going to be ultra woke or anything like that. The risk, of course, is obviously there. But again, with the storyline with Teela, the setup was already there in the original series. So I just hope that they do this right.
Same here. I'm a huge fan, and I hope it feels nostalgic, but at the same time new and fresh, to where they get the right mix, kind of like Cobra Kai. Oh, we got another super chat. $5 from Adam Ofer. Do you want to take this one, Rob?
Adam Ofer. Hey guys, where is all of your long videos? It helps when I'm at work. Also, have you heard of Woke Highlander movie? The long videos are actually on a playlist on both the
main channel and this channel now, I think.
Yeah,
Andre.
Yeah,
you've put a lot of longer videos in playlists.
Yes, there's a playlist on the main channel that's called Roundtables and Discussions, and there you will find all of the longer unedited roundtable discussions that were on the main channel, plus some select ones from After Dark as well. And if your next question is going to be, well, why do we do this? Why do we unlist them and just put them in the playlist? And the reason is quite simple. YouTube punishes us really badly if we don't.
Yeah, there's something with the YouTube algorithm that it favors
numbers. Yeah,
it favors the shorter videos over the longer ones.
Well, not just that. Some people that aren't like our fans, like you guys that show up for the live shows and stuff, other people who just stumble upon those videos, they'll watch it and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to sit here and watch an hour-long conversation and check out. So then that tells the algorithm that people aren't watching that video, hence the next video we put out isn't as promoted, etc. down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the longer videos don't tend to show up in the recommendations that you see over on the sidebar, over on the right-hand side as well. So
that's mobile. Forget about mobile.
That's how what Tom just mentioned feeds into that. I mean, like I said, they check out early of a video and then it doesn't get recommended to other people. So it's all very complex, and anybody who figures it out, YouTube probably hires them to make it even more complicated.
Yeah, probably.
$5 super chat from Tim Riggs. Word of warning though, Kevin Smith doesn't work well outside his own process. Maybe this will.
I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, Rob.
Maybe not be too Hollywood system. Who knows? Well,
I don't think it's going to be too Hollywood. It's just something that's done by a really, really small team. Because basically what happens here is that there's a writer room that Kevin Smith is in charge of, and then you have the executive producer for Mattel that's in charge of Kevin Smith, that keeps him in line. I would imagine that he's already been through a vetting process for getting this opportunity to begin with. So fingers crossed. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I think. See, here's the thing with Kevin is, I mean, I've been a lifelong Kevin Smith fan since I can remember. I was an early Clerks fan, so he does, even though he does have some. How about I put this? There are times he can get very.
Well, he loves a lot of stuff. He's very much a fan of things.
And I think as long as he has people steering him, like I keep forgetting the gentleman's name, who's the executive producer. Help me out here, Andre, who wrote the comic that you bring up in your editorial.
Yeah, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. I got the name here.
Oh, I have it here too.
I don't have that in my head, of course.
Okay, yeah. I know it's late for you two on top of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
David
Rob
something.
Rob David.
I should have remembered that. Jesus, that's my brother and Rob's name together, for Pete's sake. And that's David's also his brother's name. Yeah, Rob David, I think, is really going to be the guy steering the ship here as far as like the story and everything, which I think is a good thing. And I know like some people are worried about some of the people involved. But one of them worked on Supergirl, who I'm sure was one of Kevin's bring-ons because he worked on, and that's the other thing. Kevin's going to be working on a CW show, I think, at the same time as this, or still working on a few other things. So he's got other things in the pipeline too besides this, I think. So he's not going to be like, he's going to be a showrunner, but I don't think he's going to be like worried. He's not going to be writing the scripts and stuff, is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. If you have anything to add to that, Andre, before we go.
No, I don't really have anything to add to that.
You don't think he'll be writing the scripts at all, do you?
Kevin Smith?
Yeah.
No, he'll just be overseeing the writer's room.
Right. So I wouldn't worry too much about that as far as like that kind of stuff goes, but we'll have to see. And there was one other thing here. I thought I missed a super chat. Okay, here it is. I think there's another one before this too. $4.99 from Chief Cook. If they do a He-Man movie, will we hear Adam say by the power of Grayskull or do something else?
We will absolutely. Okay, first of all, they will be doing the He-Man movie. It's currently pushed back a little bit, but it's not cancelled. That movie is happening now. I'm pretty certain of that. Will he say by the power of Grayskull? I would be shocked if he didn't, because that's one of like the iconic things. They even had that in the 1987 movie, so it's definitely going to be there. If there's going to be a Prince Adam or something, I don't know, but there's going to be an occasion where He-Man says, by the power of Grayskull, I have the power, because that has to be in there.
Yeah, I'm not even sure why they left Adam out of the 87 movie other than just logistically time, probably. It was just easier just not to have the character, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think that was the reason. Sometimes it's that simple. But guys, I have to call it the night. I just want to say thanks for having me, and thanks to each and everyone in the chat. It's been a pleasure to have you here.
Yes, and thank you so much for the super chats. We appreciate that as well.
Thumbs up if you like Andre Bean.
Yes. It's very late for Andre, so do show him some love.
Yes, all right, excellent. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Good night, buddy.
Good night.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, why not subscribe and click the bell icon for all the latest content? And be sure to check out our other videos. Stay tuned because another video is coming right up.